Welcome to On the Brink, a fresh lens to take you and your business to new heights. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Andi Simon, your host, and my job, as you know, is to help you see, feel, and think in new ways. As an anthropologist, I really want you to step out and look at what's happening all around you and begin to observe things through a fresh lens, because what we thought from the past is not going to take us into the future. And so I go looking for people who can help you, our listeners, and our viewers, to begin to better understand how you too can really adapt to fast changing times. Humans have always done that. And right now, we're going to help each other and collaboratively begin to see, feel, and think in new ways. So I'm absolutely thrilled to have today JD Gershbein. Now, JD is somebody I've met through Peter Winnick's Thought Leadership Leverage Group. And I'm just thrilled to be sharing some of the folks in that group with others because they have great stories to share and great assets to us in different ways. A little bit about JD, and then I'll let him tell you about himself. He brings a keen sense of observation, a little anthropological, and a distinctive voice to the global stage. He has a background in the neurosciences, psychology, and the humanities, and he offers a depth and breadth of understanding of particularly social media, which we'll be talking about today, all of it, and multiple disciplines. Some of the Zoom fatigue that we hear, and we're developing some programs for, some of the frustration of not being able to be with people. What is it that's happening that we should embrace? And how do we do this differently and better? I love the fact that he says JD speaks about the things that matter to people in a digital world. Welcome to the fourth industrial revolution. It has arrived. JD, thanks for joining me today.
Is this where I say thanks for having me, Andrea? Thanks for
only,
having me, Andrea.
only if you want to. You could say no thanks. I'm done. Let's go home.
You know,
Lunchtime.
I've heard that introduction a few times, but never as eloquently stated as you.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. It's a pleasure. JD has brought us lots of fun, and we're going to enjoy learning about something in a new way. It's not quite edutainment, but it is very important for us because we don't know what's going on. So, JD, tell us about your own journey, because I like the folks who are listening and can't see you to begin to visualize you. It's important. And it's a good time for us to sort of set
Sure.
the stage for what we're going to be talking about next. So, who's JD and how'd you get here?
Boy, who is JD? That actually is my hashtag. That's how I self-classify. Who is anybody at this stage of the game, Andrea, really? We've had close to 2 decades now within the social media revolution. And what separates me from a lot of folks who are just now discovering their virtual selves is that I kind of envisioned a place for me in the virtual world many years ago. I tell people that things changed for me when I sent my first email, because then I was truly and finally attuned to this world outside the real, and this internet spoke to me, and I took the time to explore it and deep study it, and went to networking events and did my work as a marketing communications strategist, and just started opening up and talking to people about what these platforms were and what they could do. I saw the possibilities in this right away, and I've never considered myself a futurist or a visionary in any sense of the words, but there was something to this and I wanted to be a part of it, so I really went full immersion into it. So it begins for me, and really in 2006, when I serendipitously arrived at LinkedIn. I knew I would have discovered it sooner or later, but at the time I did. I was kind of meandering around professionally. I didn't know where my next piece of business was coming from because the Great Recession was on. And I found myself going to networking events with uh, the majority of people who had been unceremoniously dispatched from their jobs, or they were in career transition, and there wasn't a lot of business development per se in a new burgeoning field like social media. So I had to kind of wait and let LinkedIn, the site of choice for me, kind of pace with what I was doing. And over the last couple of decades, I've been on this journey. I never really referred to it as journey speak, but it truly is a journey. It's a linear path, but with many twists and turns. And through it, I've found my own personal narrative, my psychological narrative, but also I've written my story. And that's been one of educating others and getting them to kind of see what I see, and just helping them gain a greater understanding of the virtual world.
Well, the interesting part for me is that but knowing you and beginning to see it through your eyes, I'm beginning to move from seeing LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter as things to do. I'm moving from there into being the part of who I am.
Mhm.
And LinkedIn in particular, I mean, we focused ourselves on SEO and we've built our websites around pillar pages and topic clusters and content marketing. So if you Google Blue Ocean Strategy Expert, I'm number 2. If you look at culture change, I'm right up there on that first page. Corporate anthropology, I'm in the first 3 or 4 or 5. And I respect Google and its ability to bring people to the right place with the right, authority for it. Did I spend much time on the social media stuff? No. And now I'm beginning to pay lots of attention. I have a hunch I'm not unusual, but I also have a hunch you're going to tell us about your own experiences and how they've helped you help others with this. Am I right?
Well, if you're going to go out and self-classify as a personal brand strategist, I feel that you better walk the talk. And in my case, it's not about being on a mission to help people build their personal brands because I can't help them build their brands. Only they can. What I can do is be a great thought partner, be a sounding board, and give them the wherewithal to go out and feel confident about what they're doing on these sites. We've arrived at a point with social media where we're taping here today, where I encourage people to develop their own take. There's no definitive field guide. There's no playbook out there. It's what everybody is kind of doing that feels right. Unfortunately, not a lot of it looks right or sounds right or has the desired effect. So there is cause and opportunity for someone like myself to just let people know they're on the right track and constructively reinforce them along the way. I never harp on mistakes that people make. I never harp on blind spots. I really like to focus on what's going to move the needle for folks. And when you're proactive and when you're on it every day and you're doing something, the wins start to come incrementally and you can build toward greater wins. And we're at a point in human history right now as we tape where we're living through a global pandemic and things have changed. So yes, there's a pivot and everybody's pivoting within the pivot. And we're now trying to come out of this as unscathed as possible or with as few scathings as possible and move ourselves to the next level. And LinkedIn, in combination with Zoom and the other platforms, have become our lifelines.
Yes.
The virtualization of business is upon us.
You said something, though, I'd like to just circle back a little bit. Your personal brand. Now, being a branding person for many years, I ran marketing for a couple of institutions. It answers the question, why you? Marketing answers the question, why now? But, a simple answer is a personal why you. And then the media, either way, becomes a way of telling that story in different fashion for different folks. I'm assuming that's what you're also helping people do. And how do we then figure out what's the right elements of the story? How do we put together the right pieces so that it's one story over and over again? Help us help them.
I merge those two questions, Andrea. I take the why you and I merge it with the why now.
Ah,
And truthfully, the core of my work is why you, why now?
uh-huh.
Because I think there's a certain time sensitive nature to everything we're doing, especially on LinkedIn. You have to strike while the iron is hot, so to speak. And opportunity moves away very quickly. And to the uh, to the well prepared, to the people who put forth the cognitive steam to do this work, they're going to be in better position to recognize opportunities and really drive positive change. And that's really what it's all about, is if you can create the business case for yourself in a very compelling and impelling way, you're going to be in more conversations about your services. You're going to be in more meaningful engagement with organizations, and you're going to be really positioned to do what you want to do, and that is create value for people and get paid for doing it.
Is there an illustrative case study that you can share, perhaps anonymously, that can sort of concretize what we're talking about for the listener? A recent client or something like that, where they can see how you put the pieces together.
Well, it's interesting because when I come into a corporation or doing virtual trainings, as I've been doing for the last 15 years, and some of the most recognizable brands in the world, I get a lot of looks like this at the other end of the conference room.
I've seen those myself. For those who are listening, the face that JD is making is memorable. If you're a consultant, you've all seen it. It's that perplexity of an extreme. Really? What is he talking
Yes,
about? It's a foreign
and
language.
sometimes it naturally moves to a disapproving scowl. So I'm the kid they brought in to impress and educate. And in the early going of my training career, I was a very button, straightforward. I have to be the smartest person in the room type of corporate speaker. And I did that. I have very compelling PowerPoints, and I really put forth the best practices on this site in a way that I think would be relatable to people who are not going to spend as much time on LinkedIn as I am. I mean, let's face it, I'm supposedly the guy that's going to come in and shortcut this for people, but I also realized early on that there were no hacks or workarounds, and you absolutely have to do the work. So making this case presentable to corporate people, I would go out there, I would do a lunch and learn typically for folks, and they could have as many people as they wanted to in that room, and then huddle with the leadership team and see, okay, who do you want to invest resources on now? Let me work with some of these people who are your leaders, your client facers, your people who are really the good stewards of the company story, the brand ambassadors, if you will. Let me focus on them. And to a certain point, I'd get those sessions and I'd write those profiles for people, but something would fall apart in the communication breakdown because after a certain exposure level with me, they went back to doing the things that didn't work. They didn't make it a habit. It was like, okay, we've had our guy in to do the LinkedIn training.
Done.
Now let's go back and just do the things that just bide our time, folks.
Yeah.
So the real accountability piece for me, Andrea, was making sure that I was on the same page as leadership because I'm a conscientious guy. If they're going to invest in me, I want to give them good ROI. And sometimes because people's agendas are elsewhere, it's tough to get those case studies. But I can tell you that for those who listened, who paid attention, and who executed on my recommendations, they most definitely won business. They
Well,
improved their competitive position and they were able to showcase their culture.
the thing that is so important is that LinkedIn is a way for building a community of folks of all kinds.
Yep.
I'm listening to you and I'm saying to myself, no wonder they're disconnect because you work with large companies in particular, or even mid-market ones, and you build their profiles, you get them going. This is an ongoing storytelling. It's about why you, why now? And I like the intersection of the two. You got the method for reaching them. They're looking for you. Help them find you. I mean, let's not be in darkness and away from them. They need you. So lend a hand. Am I right? Is that our thinking that has to transform ourselves?
You know, as consultants, coaches, advisors, all we can do is lead people to the water, the lead the horses to the water. We can't drink it for them. And that was really the talking points that I presented all along was here is this it's almost a utopian existence on
It's
LinkedIn when it
perfect.
comes to shortening sales cycles and being prepared at meetings and finding out who people are in the professional universe. LinkedIn is the only game in town. It's a remarkable innovation and probably one of the greatest aspects of the internet right now
Yes.
is the ability to be in business conversations. This is an unusual dynamic, and as an anthropologist and me as a social scientist, I'm fascinated by the behaviors around this because it dovetails the business conversation.
Yes.
This isn't Facebook. So you're out there to win business, advance a career, form strategic partnerships,
Yep.
build a referral network, sell a product, sell a service, all of that. But in the process, we build a brand, we build an awareness, we build an identity in the business universe.
It's as if you're building a shelf, a space on the shelf for people to look, see you, and buy.
Mhm.
And they don't ask for much. You're just packaging yourself. And you got to know what the package is, which sometimes is hard, and why you is important to be the authority and the authentic. And it doesn't, you don't even need creativity here. It's not as if you need a whole lot of song and dance. You need good, solid communication skills to tell your story to the folks who want you. You're smiling at me.
I am. I'm getting ready to deliver. It's basically what you're saying. I'll take it a step further. We curate the exhibit on ourselves.
Yes.
We are the curators of our own exhibit. My work is essentially curating an exhibit on my client, making them presentable, representable, uh, referenced, researchable on LinkedIn. And once people are there, they can obviously make up their own minds. Decision science is a huge piece of LinkedIn. And all we're doing on LinkedIn is staging our decision making. We're
Mhm.
trying to make one good choice after another when it comes down to searching for people, connecting with them, following up with them, communicating on a level that actually creates sales moments and kind of transfers this mechanical activity into something of substance. So we're out there just trying to massage our relationships with folks. And LinkedIn is instrumental in that piece. It's integral to it now. It's a lifeline.
What's so interesting, before the pandemic, I used to say to people, if you want to change, have a crisis or create one. and and so you got into these things if you needed to start a business or you needed to hire someone or there was a problem to solve. Now you're in a crisis, but you can't go and do the lunches or the networking. I met some event marketers the other day at a workshop I was doing. They're all frustrated. They don't know where to begin. How about on LinkedIn? I mean, think about all of the places that used to be in person can now happen in a LinkedIn Zoom market, where you can invite people to have a webinar or a social event or a lunch here and learn. And they can all come in. You can invite them off your LinkedIn. I'm thinking out loud, and JD is smiling at me. I bet there are a whole lot of great, innovative things those event marketers could come up with also, and sell to clients on LinkedIn. Your thoughts? I love your smile.
Well, my smile is my default expression. I can't help it. I believe that this is the next great innovation in the digital marketing space is how we virtualize ourselves and how we transcend IRL in real life experiences. So we see people moving toward the establishment of virtual event platforms. Are the virtual events going to translate? I mean, obviously, the obvious, we don't have the human contact to which you alluded, but we do have a way of achieving top of mindedness and building brand awareness of ourselves the more that we're able to do this uh, the virtual work. But the downside is that the virtual work is creating its own impact and wear and tear on our nervous systems. So we have to be better. We have to be brighter. We have to be bolder. We
Yes.
have to come at people with more gusto. And Zoom fatigue, I know you and I have talked about it and we'll continue to talk about it. It's a great topic. I mean, it's just a great topic because are we fatigued about the whole idea of doing Zoom? Or are we fatigued because the activity itself makes us tired
Mhm.
or it depresses us or suppresses us in some way? My personal feeling is that the more energy you bring to these virtual programs, these virtual one-on-ones we're having, it's truly going to set you up for opportunities on the other side because the camera don't lie.
Yes, right.
People can read your body language very easily. It's a little bit different than being face to face with someone in a coffee shop. And there are ways and strategies that I'm using to make my own virtual meetings better and more effective and more powerful. And I run them like little podcasts. I run them like interviews. It's
Yes.
just two people chatting. And at the end of a 30-minute one-on-one, there should be great takeaways for both parties. Both parties should know in no uncertain terms what the other does, how
Yes.
they can mutually support each other, and where the potential for collaboration resides.
Well, even friends who I can't see, we've been Zooming with. And we are having deeper, longer conversations than we would have over dinner.
Most
And
definitely.
and my family does Sunday night Zoom family time. And I never could have done this before the pandemic. So I thank it kindly because one's in California and with my grandkids, one's in New Hampshire with my granddaughter. And we gather on Sunday for 15, 20 minutes. Doesn't have to be long. And everybody reluctantly tells grandma what's been going on. And they all love the time they can share. And it doesn't have to be much more than a hug and a kiss remote. But what we're finding, we find at least,
Mhm.
is that we love being able to see each other without a great deal of travel. And I'm only doing virtual now, so Zoom and I have become good buddies. I don't have any fatigue from it. If you're on a plane for 125,000 miles a year, you have fatigue. This is a piece of cake. I guess it's only in a norm reference world that you realize what that was and this isn't. So it's great fun. But you said, go ahead. You said you're not a futurist, but I
Yeah.
am supposed to be. At least they call me that. But I'm looking ahead to a very different world, but the world has changed and keeps changing. And I'm looking at some really fun things that I'm watching emerge from this. And, I'm thinking differently when I post on LinkedIn about who I want to make sure sees it and how to put their names on there and how to thank the right people and put the right hashtag. Is there any wisdom you can share with our listeners easily?
Great question, and a huge area for me right now, Andrea. I'm really exploring the engagement dynamics on LinkedIn, and this takes into account everything that I know is important to you, the anthropology, the sociology, behavioral communications, and it's everything. I mean, the way that we're now engaging on this site. What's happened in the last couple of years? Well, more people have really leaned into LinkedIn, and now that we're smack dab in the middle of the global pandemic, people are really leaning into it. And they're thinking about their personal brands, and they're thinking about not making missteps. They want to be good. They don't want to ruffle feathers. They want to promote themselves artfully and, in my case, scientifically, and really come from a client-centric perspective, or a perspective outside themselves. LinkedIn is set up for overt, shameless self-promotion. And believe me, it should be exploited in that manner. But there is a right way and a wrong way to toot your own horn. You want to involve other people. You want to build an engaged community. If you're going to express thought leadership, if you're going to drive a niche, if you're going to do the kinds of things that folks are doing to get known and get remembered. So we approach LinkedIn with the idea that we're going to represent ourselves well, which is the key, through this profile, this nucleus, this central area of information that makes us researchable. And then from that, we have spokes that radiate out into the interactive space. And we're on those spokes. We're posting short form content. We're publishing long form content. We have links to take people to the place where we really want their eyes to be, and that is on our blogs, on our sites, our YouTube
Yes.
channel, etc. But at the same time, you're fighting the algorithm when you do that. These mystical forces that move information across the site. So now you have to involve your community. You have to literally mobilize a team of ambassadors who would be willing and would love to share your content to do that. And you start to build this kind of stellar reputation as a content source, a trusted resource, and the kind of person who leaves people wanting more. And I think that's how I teach LinkedIn. Everything's organic through your own experience, through your own network, because those are the people who will truly support you before others do. So again, this incremental, slow build toward achieving something on the LinkedIn space has become important for a lot of people right now.
It's important as well to see that LinkedIn is evolving.
Yes.
And maybe we could talk a little bit about that, because it used to be you could connect with someone. Now you can follow someone. Now there are newsletters you could subscribe to. It's almost become a huge media market. And how many different ways do you want to get? And then you can belong to organizations. And I mean, it's life. It's so weird. And that's what I love about it. Looking at it from the outside in, it's becoming, I'm going to say, a reality, as if we're in a reality TV show. Am I pushing it too
It's
far, or
the
is that what
wild,
you're seeing?
wild west. I'll go
It
you one
is.
step better. It's it's people lifting their leg to mark territory higher than the next person. It's about getting heard. It's about having the biggest megaphone. I'm not connected with any of that. I think those are vanity metrics that are kind of artificially inflating people's value right now.
Hmm.
The key is it doesn't matter how big your network is, Andrea. It's the quality of that network and the type of content you provide. Obviously you want to build your network around the content, people who are going to be receptive to seeing you on their feeds every day, but also the kind of content that will resonate for them. Not every piece of content will have value to all the beholders out there.
Yeah.
So that's the value of really kind of making judicious choices in connecting with others, because ideally they could be our evangelists someday, and we theirs, because it's reciprocal. We
Yes.
should share to the extent that we're being shared. In fact, more so, if you really
Yes.
want to go one up on the universe. So I'm all about
Yeah.
emboldening people to have a voice. The way LinkedIn has changed, most people laid back. They weren't willing, they didn't have what it took, they thought, to be on this site every day, or they post once a week, or they didn't update their profile for 6 months. They were basically just LinkedIn accounts. But now people are moving. There's this paradigm shift toward, okay, I get it. I've tinkered with the profile. I've built this network. What do I do now? Who are the people who are going to have economic value to me in some way? Who are the people who are going to just be my professional friends? And you just go out there now and change up your dynamic a little bit in the way you connect.
But it sounds like what we did before without LinkedIn. Now we're just doing it on LinkedIn. We're just doing it. And it's given us a new way to do it.
Keeping us
Uh,
together, really.
yes, it has. And the neat part is that humans are social. We're herd animals. We need other people. If you stop thinking about this in a negative way, you can turn it into a wonderful community of people caring for each other and helping them through this to the other side, whatever that might be. I have a hunch LinkedIn's going to be with us for quite some time. I have a husband who watches his Facebook, and I watch my LinkedIn. I have no patience for Facebook, I honestly say, but I truly love my Twitter and my LinkedIn. It's much more valuable to me. And so we pick and choose what platform is going to work, right?
Absolutely. And who knows what's coming down the pike? Zoom is technically a platform now that
Yes.
must be leveraged in the same way. If you're going to talk about investing time into the virtual world, Zoom has to occupy a prominent portion of that day schedule, because if not, you're going to lose
That's
that
right.
route for human connectedness. So, and you can be in more focused conversations with people rather than just send them emails, which is a depersonalizing
Yeah.
influence. I think we now have this ability to really occupy prominence in people's psyches when we do
Yes.
good Zoom calls. And I
Yes.
coached a few people on Zoom. I understand what it takes to be good on Zoom. Look, I have, anybody who's Zoomed with me knows that I have fun. They know that I've taken extreme measures to make sure that the 30 minutes they spend with me is going to be good. There's no selling.
Yep.
I ain't selling a thing in my calls. I'm just getting to know someone. I'm hearing how they're faring in these wild, wacky, weird times of ours, and
Yes.
and and just offer some support. Now, I happen to be in a position that's in high demand right now for my services, and people do want to look better on LinkedIn. I have exquisite problems. My project queue is swollen right now with great work on people who want to be thought leaders or trusted advisors or executive leaders, or innovators or solutionists. I mean,
Think
they're
about the
they're
multiplicity of all kinds of new roles,
the
and they're all
honeymoon
emerging.
the honeymoon is over for these people. They've got this bubble of time as imposed
Yes.
upon us. We're sheltering at home. We're thinking deep. We're reflecting. We're self-assessing,
Yes.
and somehow that has finally awoken a lot of people.
Yep. Well, it's a good time. Have a crisis. Don't waste it. Now, with that in mind, we're
Yes.
probably ready for a wrap up. Can you give our listeners two or three things you don't want them to forget, other than to have a good time?
Well, one of the things is to not downplay the value of the LinkedIn profile. It has really ascended to become the most important visual asset you have going right now, even prior to the onset of the pandemic. I tell sellers that you can't do the hunting until you do the farming. So if you're
Uh-huh.
going to go out there and connect and put yourself out there and summon forth the keyboard courage to put content out there daily, it's
Yep.
going to come back to you in profile views. What are people seeing when they go to your profile? The other piece, I mean, boy, I could go through a lot of things that kind of veer into the world of what not to do on LinkedIn, but connect with people as if you genuinely want to connect with them and there's something on the other side.
Yep.
Don't pitch anybody at the point of an invitation. First of all, it's a violation of LinkedIn's terms of service. Nobody wants to be labeled as a spammer these days. It's embarrassing, it's offensive, it's intrusive. Nobody wants to be sold at an invitation. Work on building the relationship and see what might be there. And I also tell people who want to play in the thought leadership sandbox, and many people are now starting to flex up for that, is believe in the strength of your solutions and care about the quality of content you provide. Writing content, recording content, speaking content, it's hard. This is content.
That's right.
Every Zoom call I'm on is content, or has the potential to be content. So once we really kind of take that step back and understand that this may be digested and absorbed later,
Yep.
we should go out there and do the best that we can. If we're going to turn the cameras on ourselves and parse out our value on learning videos,
Yep.
prepare, rehearse, practice in front of a mirror, in the car, in the shower, wherever,
Of
and
course.
and be good when that camera goes hot and the microphone is on. Because
Yep.
if it's not, people are going to spot it a mile away. They will bounce out.
It's interesting. I have done 400 and I don't know 30 workshops over the last 13 years, and I rehearse before everyone, even if it's a duplicate of the one I did the day before. You cannot underestimate the power of rehearsal to put you into a zone, to make it all come together, and to be intentional and of value. So this has been such fun. I must tell you that this is, for our listeners, a great time to think about how to see, feel, and think in new ways. This is change. But we are evolving because it's a whole new way of relating to people. It's okay. And it's a good time to stop thinking we're going to go back to the way it was. This isn't going to go away. This is simple and easy ways to build relationships, build a business, and build credibility in a public world that's ready for you. It's asking you. It's not putting any roadblocks up. The only roadblock is your own. So before you say no, but say yes, and how can I do this better? And get it going and see what happens. And you'll find all kinds of things are coming out of it, aren't you going?
Well, you evoke the term yes and, which is a staple of the second city
Yes.
model. And I have studied improv and sketch comedy at Second City, and everything I do is improvised.
Yes.
I don't have any plan. I'm winging it every moment of every day.
Well, you did a great job improvising today. So let
Well,
me
thank you.
thank. I'm gonna. Oh, how can they reach you if they'd like to? I know get
Well,
onto that queue.
it should surprise nobody,
You're on
Andrea,
LinkedIn.
that I'm on LinkedIn, and you can find me under my name, which is JD, initials JD, no periods, Gershbein, Gershbein. But I know you're going to have copious show notes that will reinforce that.
Yes.
And they can also visit me on my self-titled website, jdgershbein.com, and contact me any which way. I've made myself pretty accessible and reachable out there.
Well, and it's very a pleasure to reach out and touch you. Great day. Those of you who come, I can't thank you enough. I send my emails to info@andysimon.com. It's always a pleasure to get them. We get them from across the world. It's just so interesting to hear what you would like to hear more about. And I love your ideas and the speakers that you're suggesting. We've had JD Gershbein with us today talking about social, but lots about LinkedIn. Even more importantly, about it's a time for you to craft your personal brand and then make it come alive and build your whole network. It's a time to change, and LinkedIn is here to help you. And so enjoy it. Enjoy the trip. Stay safe. Stay well. Bye now.